love to hear from the students to get a sense of what they're thinking. So let me open it up and hear from you.
I would love to hear from David. David's a filmmaker, and he's come here to make digital films and distribute on his own. So one of the questions, he could make educational films. He could make feature films. How does the opening of the web and the completely bandwidth opening, which is one of your criteria that you don't have bandwidth, how is it going to help you?
Well, I mean,
Talk loud because you have a low voice.
Sorry. I think I wrote this in the paper, but
you did, yeah.
That's
why I brought
I
it up.
like YouTube a lot. Like YouTube's cool, but the problem with YouTube is that it's like cheap, because it's broken down. It's not as visually stunning. It's like even the HD, new YouTube HD, doesn't necessarily look good. There's not a lot of artistic feel to it, because every one artistic piece that's in YouTube is 37 kids getting punched in the groin.
Yeah.
So now with bandwidth opening up and with the internet too that's coming, if I can put a 2-hour feature film in highest HD quality, and you can look at that instantly, as if you put a DVD in, I think that's gonna jump me past all the distributors, which means
Well, as we said, Todd Rundgren said that years ago, that in late 80s, he predicted that there will be no middlemen within 15 to 20 years.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah,
but you have to have a platform to monetize it. So
we always get back to that, sir. My paper in this class always gets back to ROI, because if not, you're SOL. you're gone. You're done.
What always comes to mind when I think of film and distribution online, because those were some of my very earliest thoughts about what's going to happen with the web. And I was a media and cultural studies academic before what I do now, so I was thinking about those sorts of things. Have you talked about the long tail theory in your course?
We started to. This is first year. We've discussed Chris Anderson, discussed the long tail, and I just missed his lecture by a day in Manhattan at SIIA. We bring it up in the later, these guys are just 6 weeks in. But long tail, you guys are not familiar with this, Chris Anderson, and he's talking about how, well, you define it, okay? I can, but we invited you to speak, so you speak. How would you define long tail?
I have to give a synopsis of long tail. Okay.
All right, I'll give it if you want. I just didn't want to step on you.
No. Let me try and fail, and then you can fix me. But
trust me.
I think it's very relevant to film distribution. The basic idea is that because storage and distribution costs have been dropping so quickly, that whereas in the past only a limited number of types of content, let's say films or television, could be successful, and they dominated the market.
Right.
We have now, in a graph form, a very long tail, which means that, let me give you an example. It's probably the best way to explain it. When television started out, let's say late 50s, the number one show, I think it was 1956, was I Love Lucy. Does anybody in your class remember I Love Lucy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's Sunbelt. They have Hulu.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. I Love Lucy had 60% of the audience.
Yeah. 60%.
Big deal. Today, the number one shows on television have 13 or 14%.
Right.
Of that night's audience.
This goes to the recording industry as well. What is a big selling CD today is 300,000, because of the distribution model of just iTunes. Now, actually, what I brought up before is that Zenith canceled Show of Shows because they could not keep up, or RCA, one of the manufacturers, canceled Show of Shows, Sid Caesar, because they could not keep up with the manufacturing of the televisions because the show was so popular. So they actually stopped producing TVs. They canceled the show because they could not produce TVs fast enough to keep up with the demand. So And also the less quality of media today, the quality level since the early days of television has dropped to a point of Neanderthal in some cases, the popular shows. You know,
so the promise for, I'm sorry, the promise for a filmmaker distributor is that whereas in the past you would have to get it signed and delivered or distributed by one of the major companies, today can distribute themselves and pick up a very small audience in the United States, a very small audience in Europe, a small audience in Asia, and make a decent living from that. But whereas in the past you were either in the top 10 and you made good money, or you usually didn't exist. So
yeah, the Harvey Weinstein, the Harvey Weinstein,
the economic,
Miramax, everybody, they controlled it.
Yeah.
Sure, and that goes all the way back to G.W. Griffith, Zanuck, all the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, all the different things that controlled film and distribution in the early days, and also later on television. You know, obviously with the big things.
And they're trying very hard to still control it, but it's getting harder.
Well, they just said at the Emmys, I think it was Julia Louis-Dreyfus, said, "I just want to say thank you for this award at the last broadcast convention of all time." She did mention that she could see what's coming down the pike, and you know she's no schmuck, so she realized. And Tina Fey is my goddess. We'll talk about that another time via email. How brilliant that woman is, and she sees it as well. I think we're really talking about distribution of content, whether free, not free, monetizing it, ROI, whether it's educational, entertainment, whatever it is. And I think we have to get back to the necessary evil. And you know, the necessary evil, and if you read my blog, and I just really, you know, I'm an ad man from 30 years ago, but it doesn't have to be evil. It does not have to be evil. Advertising does not have to sell carcinogenics to children. Advertising can simply inform people. You know, we don't have to sell pharmaceuticals. You know, my mother-in-law says, "I don't have high blood pressure. I take Lipitor." No, honey, you take Lipitor because you have high blood pressure or whatever it is, cholesterol. And, you know, that is permeating the airwaves as well. You know, we've never seen it before. So we have to pick our clients or pick our customers or whatever you want to call them appropriately. Like, museums are hurting, libraries are hurting. Many of the cultural structures today are hurting because funding has gone away. So now you got a Facebook, which basically, I'm sorry, you know, first of all, he stole it from his two partners. We all know that. They're still in court at Connect You. But my point being is, you're worth $15.5 billion. And I actually wrote this as a comment on Chronicle, and they actually put it on the front page. So when does he give back? When does Google give back? When do any of these companies give back to keep the market alive? You got to feed the cow if you want to get the milk, right? So instead of just bringing up profits, where's the Facebook scholarships? Where's the Google scholarships? Where are the Google fellowships? Shouldn't they be there by now? Google's 10 years old. Facebook's 6 years old. They built up billions of dollars in revenue based off of the academic environment, marketplace. Where's, you know, your local pub buys you a pitcher, right? After a while. Where is it? And why isn't it not here? You know what I mean? That's my point. And maybe I'm being naive, foolish, ridiculous, but I would keep this alive. And I would do something personally, responsibly, to keep the marketplace, because academia is suffering today desperately. Do you agree or disagree that it's suffering? Do you think we're in a little bit of trouble financially?
The situation here is not quite as severe. We need to start thinking about doing things differently. Mm-hmm. I think that's the number one priority. Mm-hmm. We start analyzing when people are learning. We start distributing this information. We become much more transparent. We really serve students as opposed to faculty, and that for me is the starting point.
All right, I can see your point with it. I'm a little bit more evil than you are.